Hey everyone, how's it going? This is the bald metal nerd coming at you with another video. In this one, I am going to take a bit of a trip down memory lane, but as we go through this, you'll understand the title more because I think my memory is starting to fail me a little bit at this point. So, um, I'm going to give you guys as complete of a look as possible at my previous cassette collection, or the albums I owned on cassette. The way I did this is I just, like I said in previous videos, one of my priorities when I was collecting CDs was to replace every tape I had with the CD version of the album. Right now, when I was looking through my all my CDs, I pulled them all off, all the ones that I could remember off the top of my head. Yeah, I had that one on tape. But by the time I was done, there was a really small number of albums, much smaller than what I thought it would be. In fact, I know it's wrong because of the fact that um, when I collected tapes, I had two or three. If you remember, they were like basically the plastic, fake wood drawers that would have the multiple slide out doors for the tapes. I owned, at the height of my cassette collection, I believe, two or three minimum. I think it was three. Three of those containers that held, each one of those held, I'd say at a minimum 25 tapes. And if I only owned this small number of releases I'm about to show off, I sure didn't need three of these containers. That's for sure. So I think in reality, I owned somewhere between 60 to 70 pre-recorded tapes, and then, the rest that I kept in those containers were like, mixtapes I had made or whatever. But again, my memory's fuzzy on this, so I'm just going to show you what I can remember. And this will span about a 6-year stretch, the first 6 years of my music collecting. So we're really going to kind of recreate the earliest bits of me being a quote collector from age 11 to I guess about 17 or so, or 16, whatever, however old I was when all this stopped. So anyway, let's start off. The first two tapes I ever owned, hell, the first two music releases I ever picked out myself. I've talked about these a million times in different videos, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. And the first two releases I ever owned on cassette, or, for myself at all, of course, we got Skid Row's Skid Row's self-titled debut, which I still think is a fantastic album that holds up really well today, and Poison's Open Up and Say Ah, which I enjoy it for nostalgia alone. And for me, I got these in 1989. That started me off on the journey, to become the music collector that I am today. I had decided I wanted to, quote, get into music, and those two are the ones that I picked up to experiment and listen. And I preferred the Skid Row one because it was heavier and I knew I liked it, blah, 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 blah. And that would have been fall of 1989 because I got it right around my birthday, and my birthday is in the autumn. So there you go, right? Fall of 89. Now, this next album that I'm about to show off, again, I've told tons of stories about this, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But I know for a fact this is the third cassette I ever owned, and it's this band's third album. What a coincidence. And that is Metallica's Master of Puppets, right? Just very brief recap. I got this. It was either winter of 89 or 90, right? This was right around, very shortly after I'd gotten those first two releases. I knew that I wanted to get this because I thought the album cover was amazing. Literally, who could go wrong with the graveyard, the hands with the kind of strings pulling down, the crosses, and that. I just thought this was one of the coolest things I had ever seen. I knew Metallica existed, obviously, at that time period. I just wasn't familiar with their music. I took this home, and I was basically an instant convert after listening to this. I thought it was amazing, blew my mind. I still think this is an incredible album, obviously. So, not long after that, within a couple of months, so this might have been early 90, I don't know. I do remember specifically getting these next two releases when it was cold outside. I do remember it was cold weather, so it was probably early 1990, winter. And like I've told this story before, my parents took me to a large department store, and in the basement, that's where they had what I would call all the cool stuff, right? Which was, music and such. And the two releases I picked up were obviously also from Metallica. I got, And Justice for All and Ride the Lightning on cassette. And when I heard these two, of course, that made me even more of a convert. And at that point, I started to know that I was going to become a quote-unquote metalhead. It was pretty obvious to me at that point. It wasn't yet quite fully cemented, but clearly it was obviously very much heading that direction. Okay, so a bit later on in 89 slash, or actually by this time it might have been 1990. I don't know. I guess it must have been, since one of the albums I'm going to show off was released in 1990. So obviously I listened to the hell out of those albums. Memorized them forward and backward. In fact, And Justice for All is the only cassette tape I ever bought twice, because I listened to And Justice for All so much that the tape broke on me, and I bought another copy. I had had it for several years by the time that happened, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. So anyway, the next two albums I'm going to show off, I guess, must have been bought in 1990, because, like I said, that's when one of the releases was. And this is the second band that I decided to try to get into, and pretty logical one, moving on from Metallica. And that is these two albums by Megadeth. I don't know which one I got first, truthfully. I know I got these pretty close to the same time on tape. So we got Rusted Peace and So Far So Good. So what? Two of Megadeth's, let's face it, two of their best albums, right? Easily. And that was the point that I knew. I think that is the point that I fully knew that I was going to be a lifelong metalhead, and I was going to very heavily collect music, and I did after that. So, yeah, all right. So we're going to move on now we're going to shoot ahead to 1991. And I know I got other albums in 1990 besides those two. I'm just not sure which ones, because like I said, I was looking through my albums, and I just couldn't figure out which ones I had owned on tape. So again, my memory failing. I owned all my tapes until the early 2000s. I gave them away in, what year was it? Like maybe 2000, 2001, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's been 20 years since I gave them away. So forgive my memory being a bit fuzzy on this stuff. So anyway, the next two albums that I knew for sure that I owned in 1991 are pretty obvious, probably to anybody. First one I'll show off is Skid Row's Slave to the Grind. I know I got this when it came out because I really liked Skid Row's first album. And of course, on this album, I liked it even more, right? This is easily Skid Row's best album. In my opinion, it's a masterpiece. I think it's absolutely fantastic and holds up extremely well 30 years later. Here we are. So anyway, there's that. And then, of course, the next obvious one that I'm going to show off is the Black Album by Metallica, right? Not too shocking there that I owned this thing in 1991. I got it when it came out. And again, I know for a fact I got other albums that year in 91. I just, again, can't remember which ones. I know I sound like a broken MP3 on this, but I just want to reiterate that point. And then the following year, I guess 92, well, yeah, 92. Maybe one of these was gotten in 91, I'm not sure. But the next one that I can really remember getting, I got this my freshman year of high school, so this might have still been 91 when I got this one too. But the next one I'm going to show off obviously wouldn't have been till 92 because that's not, the other album didn't come out till 92. So this one, Kill 'Em All, is actually coincidentally the last classic Metallica album I ever heard, right? And funny enough, it's their first album. I didn't hear this until I was a freshman in high school, and I ran into I basically made friends with a metalhead in school. He had Kill 'Em All on cassette. It was the version with Am I Evil and Blitzkrieg. That's the first time I ever heard those covers of those songs. And when he gave me, or when I don't remember, I traded him something for the cassette. We traded something. And I remember when he gave it to me, it didn't have the liner notes, right? It was literally just the tape in a clear case, nothing else. And I remember when I listened to it, I remember thinking to myself, this doesn't sound anything like the other Metallica albums I've heard. Very accurate statement because obviously Kill 'Em All is much rougher than, their other stuff. And what was interesting is I was like, wow, they didn't really sound like themselves except on two songs. I thought, Am I Evil and Blitzkrieg sounded more like the Metallica I was used to than the rest of Kill 'Em All. But at that point, I didn't even know they were cover songs. So they got me, right? They got me. Since it didn't have any liner notes or anything, I had no way of knowing those were covers. So I just, for a while, I thought those were actual Metallica songs. And I just thought they seemed really out of place on this album. But hey, such is life before the internet, right? Anyway, moving on. I guess here, 1992. Again, I know I got other albums, just don't remember which ones, obviously. But 92, I remember getting this right when it came out because by this time, I was a fairly big Megadeth fan as well because obviously I really enjoyed So Far So Good, So What, and Rest in Peace. Got Countdown to Extinction when it came out. Needless to say, was not disappointed. I love this album still. I loved it then. I love it now. What can we really say about it? Moving on. Sometime between, we'll just go, I don't even know what year I got most of these, right? I'm just going to show all these off just because it's kind of indeterminate when I got these things because these albums were all kind of, released at different times. I guess that one would have been later. So in no particular order, I think I got that one later because I kind of remember getting that. I'm pretty sure the first Anthrax album I ever got was Persistence of Time. I think it was either this or Spreading the Disease. I think I might have owned Spreading the Disease on tape, but I'm not 100%. See those fuzzy memories, coming back. And I'm 90% sure I owned Persistence of Time on tape. Again, this is, not really knowing. But I gotta say, obviously, I love Persistence of Time. I loved it then. I love it now. This instantly made me a pretty big Anthrax fan. I remember when I heard it. I also love Spreading the Disease. So even if that had been my first one, I would have been an instant Anthrax fan as well. So whatever. Anyway, and then during, sometime in that time period, I got this, I just picking up Peace Sells when I saw it on cassette. Obviously, being a huge Megadeth fan, I had to pick it up at some point. And of course, I really like it. And then this one I remember getting, not this version. I got the original. This is the 2002 remix, remaster, whatever. I bought, quote, the original version. It was a combat cassette, with the original album cover of "Killing Is My Business." Um, I remember actually getting this, well, not this, but the original version, um, when I went to, I believe it was right before or right after a concert I saw as a teenager. Um, in the Basically in Cincinnati, there's an area called Clifton, which is where the University of Cincinnati is located. And back then, obviously, record stores were flourishing. And before, after the concert, of course, I liked to go into record stores. More things change, the more they stay the same, I guess. And I saw that "Killing Is My Business," and I got it. And I have to say that was the first time I ever heard a Megadeth album, and was actually kind of underwhelmed by it, right? But when I heard the quote remix and remaster, I was like, that totally. So I didn't have a great opinion of that album for almost 10 years, I guess, until then when I heard the remix and remaster, my opinion flipped, and I obviously see it as the thrasher piece that it is. Moving on, at some point, I got my first John Bush Anthrax album, which coincidentally was their first one, Sound of White Noise, on cassette. I think I got this roughly when it came out in like 93 or so. And I really enjoy this. It's obviously a lot different than the Belladonna stuff, but I still really, 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 really like it. So there you go. There's that. Now we're going to move on to, I guess, 94. And I know by this time, by 94, I was collecting CDs pretty heavily, right? But I still bought tapes. I was kind of getting both, right? I was buying some stuff on CD and some stuff on tape. I think probably what determined what I bought back during the 93 to 94 timeframe, because I remember distinctly starting to collect CDs in 1993. I think what determined it for me at that point in time, whether I would buy the tape or the CD, simply was two very important factors: availability and price, right? Because as a teenager, it's not like I had very much money to spend on this stuff. I'm not even sure what age I started really working. I know I was 14, but it was very much off and on. And I didn't work very much at all till I was 16. So that's when I really started to have some actual money to spend on this kind of stuff. But I don't know. I know by the time I bought this next release, I was very much collecting CDs, but I still bought this on tape. Maybe it was cheaper on tape. Maybe that's all I could find it on. Anyway, Soundgarden, Super Unknown, right? This is the first Soundgarden release I ever bought, and I loved it. And I know at the time, I was also very much a really big Alice in Chains fan, because I kind of got into both of those bands right around the same time. And I don't specifically remember owning any of the Alice in Chains albums on tape. I got all of their CDs, but I don't remember owning any Alice in Chains tapes specifically. So again, that weird dichotomy. I probably bought Facelift or Dirt right around the same time I bought this. Bought this on tape, and for some other reason, there's other ones on CD. Go figure. Anyway, and then moving on to a little bit later here. Both these albums. Oh wait, I think okay. And again, same thing. I had Euthanasia on tape. I don't know why. Should have been CD, but I remember buying the actual CD of this at a movie store. I'm sorry, movie rental place near where I lived at the time. This was, I don't know, I probably bought this CD in like 96 or so. So I had the tape for a few years before I ever bought the CD. There you go, right? And These two, again, indeterminate reason why I bought these on tape instead of CD, but I did. So one is Anthrax's Stomp 442. A lot of Anthrax fans aren't into this one. I personally think it's a gem, but I know that there are many who would disagree with me. And Subhuman Race. I had the Digipack, but, well, it got destroyed over the years, so all that's left now is the actual CD and my, the liner notes or whatever. And around this time, I was starting to, quote, explore old metal again, or old metal. And two bands that exemplified this for me. I know I owned some of their albums at the same time I owned this album, but again, all I had were CDs, and I don't remember owning any Black Sabbath or Judas Priest records on tape. I just have no memory of it. I just own them all on CD, the ones that I have. But this band that I'm about to show, this is the only album of theirs I ever owned on tape, and that is Iron Maiden's Fear of the Dark. I think I know I had this by the time I was a junior in high school. I had it before that. I think I got this when I was a sophomore. Yeah. So whatever. This is the first Iron Maiden album I ever heard. Thought it was fantastic. The end, right? Okay. And the last album I'm going to show off is the only one that I ever bought that from Walmart back when they, censored music. And boy, oh boy, did this one get censored. And this is also the last one chronologically I can actually recall buying on tape. This might have been the last tape I ever bought. I don't know. But hey, whatever. I'll show it anyway. It's White Zombie's Astro Creep 2000. And clearly there's lots of swearing on this. There's the cartoon nudity and the artwork, all that stuff. None of that was on the Walmart release of this thing. I can tell you that much right now. And it was a cassette I owned. There you go. So that kind of brings us to the end of this journey. And it's it's maybe a third of what I actually owned on tape. The other 2/3 is just lost to my unreliable memory, apparently. I don't know what I actually did own on tape, clearly, or I would have shown off a lot more. But them's the breaks. I think I might have had a couple of Slayer albums on tape, and maybe an Overkill or two. Again, but I'm not really 100% sure on this. That's why I didn't show the stuff off. I didn't want to say, oh, I own this just to make myself, to brag on myself, because I have no idea if I actually did or not. Maybe some 9 Inch Nails. I don't know. I know I bought a lot of tapes during those years and a lot of CDs starting in 93 onwards, but who knows? I think part of the reason I also would still buy tapes at that time is because during that time period, I still very extensively used a cassette-based Walkman. And what's funny is during that time period, when I was using the cassette-based Walkmans, I couldn't give less of a shit if they had a radio tuner in them or not, because even back in the 90s, I did not care for listening to the radio. So I've been anti-radio for a long time. So anyway, that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed this incomplete look at my past. That's it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So, as always, live long and prosper. Keep on rocking. Let me know how good your memory is to this stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one.